Hey everyone, before we begin today's video, do check out the campaign to get your very own plush version of Raj, our mascot of the channel. Do check out the link below in the pinned comment for more information. Thank you!
There had been rumours that they were around, but if they were, what would they look like? Hey guys, MasakoX here. In the world of Dragon Ball Super, at one point, there were a total of 18 different universes, and our universe, Universe 7, was originally Universe 13 in that lineup. Something that Zeno has historically been very averse to, that number. You can check out more about this connection between that guy and the number 13 in our previous video on the topic about the true identity of Universe 7 and why he and the GP are just so darn fascinated by it. It involves a lot of maths, but also a lot of mythical links that fill us with relief. Dragon Ball still has its roots with culture, as well as history, and hasn't just become a basic cartoon show. At least not yet. Another thing that you might be thinking is that this seems to be gearing up towards one of those building videos, isn't it, Masako? Well, you are right. You know, we've been building a lot of stuff in this series. If you are indeed new to this channel, as well as this series, over the past couple of years, Havarok and I have made it our mission to create our own worlds, people, and scenarios based on what has come before within Dragon Ball, and somehow yet keep it fresh. True to the formula, but also true to the innovation at the same time. We've made a villain, as well as his minions, some new landscapes and worlds, new forms for Goku and Vegeta, and recently we made a God, Angel and Kai combo for our Hypothetical Universe 13. All of this simply based on some drawings and concepts that Toyotaro had made for different angelic figures that didn't quite make the cut for the final tournament, as well as the anime. But today we're sprinkling in some extra what-if-ery here, and really pushing ourselves. Much like how Toyotaro and Toriyama would have done to try and make 70 unique characters for the Tournament of Power. What if our new Universe 13 got the chance to take part in said contest? Well, for starters, 8 universes would still be axed from the lineup in theory, so as a result, Universe 11 would be exempt, since they were in the top 5. So, no Jiren, but sadly no Toppo. Oh well, we've got to give and take. The first obvious step to make this happen though is a simple one. They would need a team. That's right folks, today we are going big. Today we are going to design an entire universe team. Maybe then we can start to relate to the showrunners of Super in some way. They managed to make that many characters and make them pretty decent. We can do it surely, or at least to some extent. First of all, it would be nice as well as accurate to the other realms that were introduced to come up with a theme for our universe, because most of the teams are more or less themed. Universe 6 and 7 are notable exceptions though, since we already knew the characters before the tournament happened, and they're basically opposites of one another for the most part, so if you want to pick a theme, I guess opposite is a theme? Right, okay, let's kick things off. Universe 3's theme is pretty easy to understand. It's machine-based, starting with their God Moscow, well, inside of a mule, and then coming to an end with their team as a whole. So from our previous building video, our God for Universe 13 is the many-faced Medea, based around Slavic mythology. So we could approach this scene from many different perspectives, because Medea has at least 4 different faces for all occasions. As we imagine Medea being some kind of a golem-like person, we could make more rock warriors to maybe reflect the world that he would have been born on from before becoming the lead destroyer of the universe. But wait, didn't you already use that trope with Zidane and his minions? They're rock-based. They are quite literally derived from building materials. They are the construction crew. Well, you are indeed right. So we're not going to use that here wholesale. Instead, we will go along with the concept of masks and many faces to make it more interesting. We would also like to give this new team a theatrical, circus-like vibe, so they feel like a group of travelling artists, something that gives off the vibe of whimsy and wonder, eccentricity, but at the same time are able to hide their true effects and thusly use their strong moral fibre to wipe the floor with their opponents. In short, a group of kick-ass bards. Toss a coin to your fighters. Speaking of bards, we have a fun idea for the first warrior. Having in mind creatures like the Giras from OG Dragon Ball. Remember, dinosaurs are common in the dragon world. I think one thing that a lot of people would like to see more of are dinosaurs doing cool stuff. Giant reptile people are just inherently cool. It goes without saying. But our fighter just can't simply be a straight up clone of a Gyros. There's just no connection with Universe 7 at work, but we can go with something similar. Something that would work with the many-faced theme. That's why we want to give them 3 heads and make them more like a hydra. He would definitely be the muscle of the group, going so far as being the circus strongman of our eccentric posse. Perhaps every single head will have a mind of their own, which could be used to comedic effect, or be used by someone like Krillin to turn them against each other. Also triple mouth ki blasts, because why not? We would call our first fighter Doran, as a little nod to King Ghidorah. We think Toriyama would appreciate that. What about someone more gimmicky, to really stand out and draw in a lot of flashy visuals? Back in the day of the original Dragon Ball, we had the likes of Oolong and Puar with their shape-shifting shenanigans. Then after that, that trope was just sort of forgotten about, and they spent all of Z pretty much just being there, spouting dialogue instead of doing what they'd learnt at school. Well, since it can be learnt, how about we give Universe 13 a shapeshifter? One that would try and adapt to their teammates' fighting styles and pretend to just be a mirror image of them, only to then surprise their opponents with a very precise strike that is very unlike who they're trying to mimic, disorientating their foes. And the fact that they have a mind of their own. Unlike Oolong and Puar, we would base this character on a tree spirit or a Kodama, making them a form or type of plant person, rather small and sprite-like, to keep up with the theme of shapeshifters in Dragon Ball being relatively small, as well as being rather unimposing and unassuming in their real forms. We would call this fighter Spirito, obviously based around the word spirit, as well as a spruce tree, and much like Spirit Airlines' legroom, they would be very small. Now, it's time to add a familiar face. We decided to explore more about Zarbon's race because it fits with the overall many-faced theme. Since Universe 2 has Yardratians and Tuffles to some extent living there, who's to say that a Zarbonian didn't find a way to Universe 13 in some way? But to add some variety here, we would like to make this fighter female identifying. We've already seen Zarbon and Yuzun from the manga, so it'd be a nice change of pace to see how a lady of this race would look like. I mean, technically, there is already one example in the form of Toomel from the 3DS game Dragon Ball Fusions, a very underrated game, by the way. We think that she should be high in the overall hierarchy of the group, a right-hand person of the captain. We'll get to said captain later on. Pretty strong in the standard sense, without the need of going into her monster form against most fighters, but they still have it in reserve. We also believe that it would be nice to give her a more interesting personality in comparison to Zarbon, and give her a playful, competitive angle, while still respecting her opponents. Why? Well, I mean, a cocky and rude attitude towards people is just such a tired trope with the likes of Zarbon, so it would really be nice and fresh to have something more novel. Also, to keep up with the circus theme, she would be quite acrobatic, even in her monster form, agility at its finest, and the only thing that should change with the form is a level of desperation in saving her own universe. Also, it would be fun to add some kind of a beast tamer attire for her, sort of ironic, to show that she is capable of keeping her own internal beast in check. And if you're starting to see a pattern here, these people could really make a good touring act for the greatest space showman. We would call her Ponka, after a citrus hybrid of mandarin and pomelo, to keep things up with the fruit puns of Zarbon and Yuzun. The next two are going to be a double act, since Dragon Ball does build itself on duos. Check out our discussion video for more of that, by the way. Most of the teams already have double or even triple acts, so it would only make sense to give our universe the same treatment. We would go with the duo that are brother and sister, only more interesting unlike Kami and Orin from Heroes, rather about the size and posture of Jarko, but with the attire being more mime-like, with one of them having predominantly white attire, with the other one having black gear on. And their headgear would be a subtle nod to Ultraman, because we need more of those sweet Super Sentai references, don't we? The pair would be obviously dedicated acrobats, being able to manifest platforms and rings thanks to their ki, literally getting the higher ground over all of their opponents, to make the most of the fact that there is supposed to be a rule in the tournament of not being able to use the power of flight. I mean, that is using ki, but that was quickly forgotten, wasn't it? It would be a pretty cool deal to see them standing against the other sibling duo, 17 and 18. As for their names, we would go with Panato and Mimi. Not very subtle, but come on, the Triple T aren't exactly subtle. Now, every circus needs a magician, and we would like to do a little bit of Toriyama-esque subversion here to keep the theme going. We want this person to be the true beast of the team. So instead of being small and scrawny, we envision him as someone with a Jiren-like physique, bare-chested, but wearing a cape, white gloves, and a top hat. His face would either be hidden behind a regular mask, or even better, a crystal ball. Some Mysterio-like vibes here. All of this to allude to Toyotaro's own passion for Marvel comics. You could even describe this guy being from the same species of clown people, just like Belmod. So one of the weirdest villains in Spider-Man's rogue gallery has to be Spot. Or should I say from the series, ta-da! The Spot! Spot essentially can generate miniature black holes and portals on his body or around him. We think it would be kind of cool if a secret to our magician's tricks would be the ability similar to that. You can sort of see a pattern here with Janemba's skill from movie 12 to shift dimensions to get a cheeky punch in away, so there is previous here in Dragon Ball. The name of this fighter would just simply be Magi, for simplicity's sake. The next fighter would be a juggler, a four-armed one. His whole gimmick would be that his ki ball attacks would become stronger the longer he is able to juggle them. Also, four arms means a lot more punch power. We'll probably make him some sort of blue-skinned alien type, wearing a mask to keep up with the theme. The name of this character will be Yona, a reference to a real-world performer raised by a Japanese family, after his missionary parents from New England passed away. It's actually a very fascinating story to follow up on, so if you've got the time, check out the link below. Our next fighter would have to be a Contortionist, an acrobat who is capable of twisting their body into unusual positions. A lot of these performers call themselves snake women or snake men, so how about adding a literal snake woman to our group? She would be very athletic and flexible, which would allow her to immobilize even the toughest of fighters if they get caught in her trap. Also, she would have the ability to generate venom, a natural power, not some cheap tricks like something used by certain other fighters, and it would count in the rules because it's naturally generated. Her biggest asset would be that once she calls herself around someone, the only way to stop her would be to literally toss yourself out of the ring, with her then with you, thus making a sacrifice. It's kind of a catch-22 situation. The name? Hebira, from Hebi, which is Japanese for snake. Another fighter would be based around the art of knife throwing and sharpshooting techniques. Now, we are aware that in the Tournament of Power rules we cannot use external weapons that aren't part of a fighter's body, so she would have to create these with ki, which isn't really that much of a stretch. It's sort of like Ranch's power bow from our What If series, where her bow in later years could be charged with ki and could be used either like a whip or a sword, depends on how the ki's used. We're pretty sure that the Zenas would allow this since it would look really cool. She would have a similar role to that of Prom and Hamira, being the sniper of the team, basically being able to poke enemies and distort them, rather than dealing some imposing damage. We would make her a creature of a smaller stature, being able to remain undetected at the arena for the longest time. The name? Tsuki, which can mean either the literal translation moon, as well as being a reference to Tsukisasu, which is Japanese for pierce, thrust, penetrate, stab, or spear. And of course, our team needs its captain and a ringmaster to tie everything together. Our ringmaster would be a cephalopod-like alien with regular arms and legs and 4 additional limbs that he would use as whips. Also, he'd be in constant telepathic contact with his team, being able to coordinate their movements even when on the other side of the stadium. As you could imagine, his 2 best fighters would be Ponka and Magi, and while he wouldn't be stronger than them per se, his leadership would be pretty vital for coordinating the rest of the team to their full potential. We could give him some octopus-themed moves, like an ink cloud plus being able to shoot ki blasts from multiple limbs. As for the name, we would just simply use the good old English word Showtime, going even so far as to calling him Mr. Showtime, and making his catchphrase, "It's Showtime!" I know it's not original and it's cheesy, but this team is all about cheese. So what do you guys think? Do you like the sound of this bunch? How do you think they would do in the tournament? Do you have your own team ideas? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!